This is the Hofstra Radio Alumni Audio Yearbook Volume 2, and today is November 20th, 2024. We have two guests today, so I'm going to invite them to tell us their names and the years they were at Hofstra Radio.
All right, so my name is Christian Ladigoski. I was at Hofstra Radio from 2012 to 2016.
Hey, I'm Tommy Smart. I was there at Hofstra from 2012 to 2016.
Okay. Well, thank you guys both for joining us. We've had individual conversations, and I've had this kind of in mind for a little while to get you guys together to talk about your show called The Screening Room, which social media told me the other day has been on the air at WRHU for 11 years now, which is pretty cool. I mean, you're not doing it anymore, but it's been on for 11 years. How, Tommy, how does that feel to know that a show you guys came up with is still on the air there?
It's very heartwarming, if I'm being honest. It's that was a big part of my college career, and I don't know, because in a way it kind of still connects me to the school and WRHU. It's nice to leave a legacy, and we were there for the 10th anniversary, and the kids who run it now really care about it. So it's very heartwarming, and makes me feel like it did something important.
I absolutely loved it too. I still love it. And usually like every anniversary comes around, I always try to tune in again. It's really fun. Which is really cool. Just at 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings, and that actually used to be 8 a.m. Sunday mornings, but then it got to 10 a.m. and it just had that slot for so many years. And honestly, I'm just grateful. Same what Tommy said. Just leaving a legacy like that is awesome. Even just beyond yourself, it's just something that's so rewarding.
Very cool. So I think we can kind of guess what the idea of the show is, but if one of you could explain what was the screening room, what is it?
Oh, that's all you, Tommy.
It was, as a concept, or just like what the premise of the show was, or
Uh, yeah, I guess both.
I guess, the show, it's a talk show about movies, and I think now the show, they kind of broadened it up to entertainment in general. But it was originally, the original concept was just to be a film talk show. There was a lot of movie podcasts at the time that I was aware of, but podcasting wasn't what it is now. People, they were kind of a niche thing, and they weren't as sexy as they are now, or as influential. So yeah, it was just supposed to be a talk show about movies. I had this idea kind of going in, because I had just gotten into the radio station, and because I was a film major, I thought it'd be cool to bring something to the table. Christian at that time, he wanted to do a music show. It would be like a music part
like
of
film
music.
scores.
Yeah, film scores. And the story is that we just said, hey, let's just blend the two. He actually called me and asked me if I wanted to be involved in some capacity. I guess we're bringing something to the table, because I guess Kowski, I was the only person that you knew that was like a film.
Yeah, I was like really interested in stuff like this, and like it was just it was a thing I just knew that people were not doing, but I know you and I were both into movies like this, so.
Right, and I thought, that, all right, let's just combine the two. And over that summer, we just developed a pitch or a program proposal at the time, and we just worked on that. Came up with a name. I remember I said, the screening room, and Christian thought I said the screaming room.
Yeah, I thought
Both
for a
one
second.
conversation, and but it just stuck. And then we made up the proposal, and I guess we submitted it before the year even started, or like when the year started, and we just they came back to do a pilot. We did like a little pilot episode. Don't know where that thing even is. And then
I think I still have it in archive. Actually, I like to this day is definitely in the archive. The pilot that I think we did it in like August no, probably more September of 2013. If you want to throw a date on it.
Now I think, yeah, because Celia Warner, she was on the podcast,
Yeah.
or on the pilot episode, and John Bewley was a guest as well, because he was working on a horror film.
Yep.
An independent horror film. Yeah, now that I remember. Yeah, we did that in Studio North, on our off time. And well, one thing I do know that you have, Christian has the audio when we went into Studio North. Me and Johannes Sorto and Christian went in there, and they each told me that the show was approved.
Yeah, we knew
Mm.
ahead of time. Oh, this is a fun story. Yeah, like we knew ahead of time. We were like, oh, let's just do like a little ad lib thing on here. Let's just turn the mics on, and then like we just in real time got Tommy's reaction, and then it's it's a good reaction.
Yeah, it was pretty. I remember that day actually. Yeah, because I remember I had a class where I was in a religion class at the time, and I remember telling them on the air about something that I was learning in class, and I was working out a lot. So I told them. I remember us just talking about that, and then they broke the news to me, and it was like, oh wow, this is like giving birth.
Exactly, something's reborn.
There's probably a few people that might dispute that metaphor, but
Nice.
that's okay. We'll consider it a labor of love, and we'll let that go. Tommy, we just had a conversation, and you mentioned that when you came to Hofstra, you were a film major and you were working on that stuff, and I think you said you're a religion minor. Christian, what was your attraction to movies, or were you doing stuff with film as well?
Oh, yeah. See, that's the crazy thing. At Hofstra, my major actually was electrical engineering, which just seems completely off the beaten path. But for my whole life, ever since I was like 13, back in 2008, I started making YouTube videos. I've always been interested in content and media and different things. And I already knew when I was gonna go to Hofstra, I was gonna do film stuff. So like, I joined the filmmakers club. I did whatever. I made most of my friends are film people and media people, so they're just kind of my people, even though I had a tech degree. So I don't know. I just love the idea of like bringing like content, technology, like stuff like that. And I've always been a film dude and love going to the movies. It's still my favorite pastime. So
Hmm.
yeah, it just made sense to bring something I love into a realm like this that didn't have it exist already. So
Very cool. I want to go back to when you guys were brainstorming and trying to figure out what the show would be, because I think you said first it was like the idea of a talk show about films, but then there was also film scores. Could you guys talk a little bit about the process of figuring out how that would work?
Um, yeah, I'm sure it was. All right, let's do because it was a non-commercial radio station. We didn't need to play commercials, so in the place of where we would have commercials, we play film scores.
Hmm.
And I forget the exact dialogue back and forth about how that would work out, but I basically was like, well, why don't we do this? And yeah,
mm,
that sounds great. Let's do this. I was thinking this. It was kind of fairly seamless. I mean, everything Christian and I have ever done together has been fairly seamless, I have to say.
exactly. It
Um,
just comes with knowing a guy for 11 years too.
yeah, yeah.
um, but like yeah, it was. I feel like we just both knew like what we wanted to do. I also, I mean, look, also the other half of this is that the type of place that WRHU is and still is and was and whatever it is just so they let you really grow. They let you really grow into an idea and like really just make something a reality. As long as it makes sense, of course. And I mean, obviously, like when people like John Mullen were there, and also Bruce Avery, who were helping out with people's ideas and shows and content and whatever programming we were trying to do, like they were encouraging a bit, and I love that the radio station was just open to, like I said, just like new ideas, new things, new innovative ways to tell stories, tell content on the radio. So it's definitely stuff that Tommy and I did, but also thanks to them too.
Yeah, well, yeah. One antidote to that too was that
Yeah.
when we presented the proposal, you're never in a room pitching it to them. You just you write it and then they talk about it and you hear yay or nay. Um,
True.
but when I remember them talking about stuff in the training class and in general, just about having like an educational aspect to all the programming.
That's true.
People
Yeah.
want to learn something, and I remember communicating that in the proposal when we submitted the pilot episode to them. And then when we met with John, John was like, "No, let's just do like you had the sorry if I'm doing an impression of him, but he was like, no, instead of having like some film school kid on to talk about movies about an independent movie that he was working on, get in contact with like the publicists that rep studios and distribution companies and production companies that are distributing movies. They're doing the press from films
Yeah.
for major, and so that would be like from like CBS Films or Warner Brothers or Sony. Try to get like A-listers on the show.
Yeah.
I think too. I mean, someday I'll have to ask John about it, but like it was the only real like entertainment talk show that they had outside the like the morning wake up call.
Right.
Was
And yeah, and a playoff of time, you said, yeah, that was a big thing. You're right. I always forgot to add that part to it. But like, the fact that John Mullen, like, like we pitched one type of show and realized that like there was a lot of opportunities, like the press, like bringing A-listers on, which we'll definitely get into it. Like some favorite interviews that we've done in different things. Like we've gotten to collab and talk to people on the show that were really cool, and we even got to go boots on the ground to Tribeca Film Festival and like different things that I did not expect just from just doing a radio show. It's just like it became bigger than that.
yeah.
And it was awesome because John definitely like encouraged and sprouted those ideas too.
Yeah, I mean, we had some growing pains. Well, which we can talk about just in like learning how to
Yeah.
work in a corporate environment. You
Hmm.
know, because we didn't really think about it like that.
Yeah. Or like what it takes to run a show and like things like that, and just like the things in between.
Well, that like doing well, that was the easy part. That was the fun part. Like
Yeah, that's
actually,
true.
actually,
A lot of the stuff behind the scenes.
yeah, just the corporate politics of things,
Yeah.
of learning to work within in a entity in a corporate
Do
setting.
do you guys mean like working within WRHU or reaching out to
Yeah,
film companies and saying, "Hey, we want to interview someone"?
within WRHU,
Mostly
Okay.
WRHU, yeah.
like doing things with approval of the e board. We didn't know, like we thought we could just do whatever the heck we wanted. But then you have to like submit some like approval, even like a small thing like putting a camera in the studio and filming it and putting it online, the show on YouTube or something. Like that was something that would need official stamp of approval from the e-board, but we
Yeah.
didn't think about that stuff at the time.
Yeah. So
And
there
there
was
was
learning curves there.
yeah, but to John's credit, I mean, and Bruce's credit for that matter, they always said aim high, and we did.
Wow, very cool. So John helps you shape the vision of what the show will be, and then I guess the two of you are figuring out the nuts and bolts of it. By the way, is this an hour-long program? How long is the show?
Yeah, it started at 30 minutes, then became an hour.
Yeah, it started on 8 a.m. on Sundays, half hour, and we just did it. I think I forget how it came that we did an hour. I think
I
I
think we
kept
just got like upgraded. We're like, hey,
yeah, we
go.
got upgraded at one point. We definitely did, but then I think I just kept annoying people to say, "Let us do an hour. Let us do an hour." And and I think eventually we did. I think when we went to that 10 o'clock slot, I think, or maybe we were doing it beforehand and we weren't allowed to, or something like that. But then we went, but then it ended up becoming an hour at that point. But no, it was really just a half hour. It was us talking about movie news. It was us interviewing a filmmaker of some kind and reviewing 3 movies. That was how the show initially started, and that was the format we followed.
Yeah. Were you guys doing all of this live? Was any of it pre-produced, or was it all recorded and then put on the air?
Great question.
The actual broadcast we did it live. The only thing that was pre-taped was the interviews, because the interviews at the time, if somebody doesn't wake up or if somebody doesn't call in properly,
Hmm.
there's dead air and it's kind of a
Also, just working with people's time
yes.
availability throughout a week.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, definitely. And then it was just easier to give people the option to pre-tape it. Um, the only person I know off the top of my head that we had on the air that did it live was also a radio man, Mark Simone on 710 WOR.
Mm.
He called in and talked to us live. But I think most people we talked to, 99.9% of them were all pre-taped.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So when people come to work together and collaborate, oftentimes their roles develop, or sometimes you walk in like, well, I'm going to be the air talent and I'm going to do the board operation, or we're both going to be on the air. How did the division of labor break down, and how did you guys decide what to do?
Actually kind of turned out to be super easy because I'm like an engineer at heart, as I was mentioning before. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna run the show. I can do the engineering, and Tommy, like, if you were to compare movie buffs, like Tommy's definitely more of a movie buff than I am, and just has like such a wealth of knowledge with it. So I'm like, yeah, he's gonna be the host. So and like it just made sense. And then we brought in our friend Mandela, who was also pretty much just as much of a movie buff, and he came in for different segments. They did movie reviews together a lot, and I would jump in on ones that I've watched,
Mhm.
and that was kind of like the three team. And then there was a fourth person who was kind of like this. They kind of like rolled in and out. We had like a news anchor who kind of would talk about film news and entertainment news, kind of in a way, and they would come in between segments and just talk about what's happening in the industry and things like that.
Yeah,
Also including box office numbers and stuff.
yeah. There was like a news hub at one
Yeah.
point where it was always a girl
Yep. Yep.
that would read scripted copy of news that were breaking down. And they would can stay in chat, also.
Yep.
Galsky, so we had this like dynamic, which was, I mean, I guess at the time I kind of compared it to, it's not really Johnny Carson and Egg McMahon,
Yeah.
where it was just like somebody who was kind of like gave me someone to talk to, you know,
Hmm.
she gave me someone to springboard off of and obviously talk to.
Yeah.
But I think it was like always just like,
It's kind of like how Kimmel has Guillermo, or like vice versa,
yeah,
like yeah, stuff like
something
that.
like that. Or even like Mark Simone, he had this guy Joe Bartlett that was like doing the news, but he was in the room, gave Mark somebody to talk off of. So there was that. Yeah. But I remember like even saying like I think Christian already had the nickname DJ Gowski, and
Yeah.
let's use that because that's hilarious. And so it was like the screening room with Tommy Smart and DJ Gowski. And so it was like, DJ Gowski on the turntable, Tommy Smart on the mic, which is something like I heard on Hot 97.
Hmm.
Yep.
So something similar. So that was our dynamic. And a lot of too, oh, just another note too. I interned at SiriusXM at one point, on their on a channel that's not there anymore. But so as I was interning there, I was learning a lot about radio production. I said, all right, I stole a lot of what they did, like in terms of like creating like segments and how to talk about content and how to talk on the air, and we implemented what we could. Um, yeah, even my opening, which was like, what I used to say, it's Time Smart live in New York. Gaska's bringing me to you via the magic of WRHU 88.7 FM, and that's how signed
Yep.
on.
That was our sign on.
Nice. At what point did you guys know that you had something that was gonna last? When, was there an aha moment where you're like, this is good, or was it just you just got comfortable and enjoyed it?
I I feel like you and I will answer this differently. I feel like it's like a combination of a like maybe like two or three things I'm thinking about in my head. Like the first thing was that the station was just recognizing how cool of a show it was in general, and like we even got like programming awards. We even got a leadership award once, so that
Mhm.
was cool. And they did that in front of the entire station staff. So it's like, okay, these guys are pretty cool. So that was like the first thing. And then from that, the second thing was that people just wanted to be involved in the show, and it was pretty crazy. There was, and this is definitely like the biggest thing I always talk about, is that originally the show started with three people at its core, and then there was a point where like we were doing so many things that there was 52 people involved with the station,
Wow.
and they
Oh
were
yeah.
like between social media and this, and we were trying to do a camera in the studio, and like so many different things. We even had like our own little like just we had a PR person who was designated to just like reaching out to people to book. It became big, and so like people once that happened, people I also think it was entertainment, it was fun, and people just loved to help it grow, and I knew it was going to last after that. That's at least my perspective, but Tommy, you probably have it differently.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, yeah, no, I think it's very similar. I think one when there was a point in time where we had to, for various reasons, had to like pre-tape the show over summertime, and
Oh
then
yeah.
and then and then Christian, you called me because you were still on Long Island at the time, and you told me that John's like loved the show, and basically he was going to make it live again and put us at the 10 o'clock 10 a.m. spot because that also was significant because people would be taking tours of Hofstra at the time,
Oh yeah,
taking
right.
tours of WRHU, and so when he was pitching WRHU to people, to like parents and students, potential students, they were seeing us. They were seeing a
Mm.
group of
That's
college
true. We were
students.
live in it and laughing and having a good time. Yeah, it's true. We were right in the
Exactly,
hot
exactly.
spot.
So in many ways, we became um, in a representation of WRHU, something that he wanted to showcase.
And it's true because you're right. Like, when a student, let's say they accept, they got accepted to to Hofstra and they decide to go, and guess what? WRHU is on their list. They're probably thinking of the show, and then they took interest and probably joins.
And that did happen. There were people that said they came to the Hofstra because of WRHU and seeing the screening room. There was some I forget who it was off the top of my head, but there were people that told me that.
Yeah,
So that's very cool.
Mm.
it's cool how
Excellent.
that worked out. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think also what else in terms of lasting. I mean, I also always believed in it. I always thought it was something special. I knew, and then it didn't take long for people to realize that. I thought, um, and I was very much self promoting it all the time, and even telling people say you work for the screening room, say you do the screening room, say you do the screening room, and just trying to like really because we had a website at one point where we had kids writing little news.
Yeah, like articles. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, little film reviews too on
Film
there.
reviews.
Um, we had Screening Room TV, which is where we filmed the show and put it on YouTube.
Because we
Uh,
realized that a film talk show would be cool to have a visual element, so that was like our take on that.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Which you can still find on the air on
Yeah.
YouTube, by the way.
Mm.
And so just stuff like that. We were. I'll say this, and I've talked about this. We never really, Chris and I really got the credit for being the as groundbreaking as we were because we were doing a lot of stuff that podcasters are doing now, like big name podcasters are doing now, and other outlets, media outlets were doing. But this is like before like podcasting really boomed.
Yeah, it was like
So, I mean,
2015 we're talking about, so it's a little
yeah,
different.
Hmm.
yeah, because there were podcasts at the time, but like all of this stuff about how you think about content creation and getting and utilizing social media and getting things in front of people. And I don't know, we were just doing so many things because I was just like researching a lot of stuff on how like everything from like social media and how that works and the thought of like putting clips and stuff. And I mean some stuff I wasn't great at myself, but there were people that we could get involved in
Yeah,
and
they're
help us
interesting.
do it. So well, I thought what we accomplished was pretty cool for college students. And I just when we see people that were just wanting to take it over after we left, that was kind of a sign that I thought it would last.
Mm. I want to go back. You mentioned this earlier about having cameras in the studio and having to get it approved. Where did that idea come from, and what kind of feedback did you get right away?
So that
Um,
that screening room TV that I think that came um from there was two different elements to it. One, I was kind of having like a little bit of an existential crisis when become like a senior in college and figure out what you were going to do,
Mm.
and it was kind of hard to like let go of the screening room. I knew it was going to be hard to, and I was like really big on like building and doing more and more and what we could we accomplish and what could we create with the show and wanting to do that both from an avenue of so filming the show was more of just like how much more can we do, what else can we accomplish, what else can we create, and there was that, and then two it was also just a sentimental thing where wanting to be able to have footage of me and Christian doing this thing
yeah.
and part of my life and to look back on for years to come. Um, in fact, I have to say, and I'm going to toot my own horn here. I think I still have the proposal that I wrote for Screening Room TV, and in many ways, I think it's the best piece of writing I've ever done.
Mm.
That's
Um,
true. You do have a very in-depth thing about it. I remember reading it.
it was yeah. I just I just and I reread it last year when we went back for the 10th anniversary, and I can just remember all the things I was learning in my classes and the things I was reading in books and in films I was watching at the time, and the sort of philosophies I had and were important to me, um, and made a very passionate pitch for preserving this moment in time. And it's a little more nuanced than that, but I just think that was a big reason. So it was for sentimental reasons and having like a time capsule, and two for just seeing what else, what other new uncharted waters can we venture into.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I guess at the time, technically speaking, it was today we take it for granted with phones and all kinds of access and so on and so forth. I guess it was somewhat technically difficult to do, or am I just not remembering the time?
Call. No, we had a good team to like try to put it together. Like intros, different things. Our editors were really great. Honestly, it wasn't too bad. We were originally here was the thing. What was interesting? We originally tried to pull the concept off with webcams,
Hmm.
and that was interesting. That got a little technically difficult because we were trying to use a switching board and like try to record a webcam stitch, and then we realized we just need to put DSLRs in the studio and just edit it in post production, and that well also just it turned out to be cleaner and higher quality that way. So we're just like, sure. And then all we did was match the broadcast audio to that, and it sounded like just as legit as it was listening on the air. So the same broadcast mics and everything. So it was a technical challenge a little bit, but it worked out.
Hmm.
Yeah, because we had to have people like kids stay after and help us edit at the end of it. We had to be able to make like one long version of the show and also splice up clips.
Yep.
So things that people take for granted now, they just do. Like
Yeah.
Right.
when Joe Rogan drops an episode, um, young Jamie has like clips like at least within an hour or two of the show, as do many
Just like
popular.
any Tonight Show, like Daily Show, Late Show, yeah, they do that too.
That's true. That's true. But we were just kind of figuring it out as we
Yeah.
went. But again, it's stuff like that, like producing a show and putting it online, and then creating clips and putting on YouTube so we can get more views and potentially go viral. That was something that nobody was doing. Yeah, that's what I meant by like we were like
Yeah.
groundbreaking at the time, or at least forward thinking, and being proactive because now people do that every day,
Yeah.
Hmm.
but at the time nobody was doing it. But that was also just technically, kind of difficult. So you had to think about while the show was going on, you had to make, oh, this was a good moment. Let's mark that down to be able to
Right.
get a clip of it. So it was an adjustment. And you know, this is part where I kind of wish we were doing it for a living because it was like we could have kept that going and and really got the hang of it. But we only had
Yeah,
like
that's
less than a
true.
year.
But I know the show goes on at WRHU, but it's it's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
Since we're thinking back about getting this and how much it means to you guys, and I'm sure the idea of the show or stories about it come up. Is there a story that you always tell about working on the screening room? Is there a favorite story?
Hmm. I A favorite story. Ooh. I mean, I was actually gonna say, like, I mean, sometimes if I'm giving a highlight reel to someone, I talk about definitely like some of the interviews that we've done on the show. Like that's stuff like some of the big ones. Like Tommy's talked to Ed Harris. I've talked to a couple of composers like Tyler Bates and Christoph Beck. Like some like people I would say like idolize, but like people I really look up to in like the scoring community. There's like Dana Bernetti, Tommy? That was
Yeah, he was Dana Brunetti. He was a film producer. He was business partners with Kevin Spacey and did Captain Phillips.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
couple like big names in there. I also loved we do an Oscar show every year, and I think they still do that on the screening room.
Oh, do
Um,
that? Oh, that's cool.
I believe so. I think they still do the Oscar show, and then usually the station would let us do 2 hours for that because the idea was to go through all the Best Picture nominations like the day, and it was beautiful because the Oscars are on a Sunday, our show's on a Sunday, so it's just like an Oscars preview show. Those are probably some of my favorite shows to run. And we brought in like guests to talk about specific movies of the 9 Best Picture noms, and like just talk about a lot to do with just the biggest award show of the year for movies. So I like talking about that too.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I'm trying to remember if there was one specific moment show that I like look back on. That was fun. Like we had, I was also friends with a film critic from RogerEbert.com
Oh yeah.
who came on and talked movies with, and I would meet him getting like press screening credentials, where
You know what's funny, Tommy? Actually, one of the best, funniest things I can just remember on the top of my head is how much Mandela laughs.
oh
Like,
yeah, yeah,
just
he
like his
left.
laugh is just contagious, and like
He
for some
was good.
reason it's just it's that's some of my favorite things is just hearing him laugh.
Oh yeah, I guess that's one thing too. Yeah, I do. Miss the friendship aspect of it. That was, and not that we don't hang out now, we do, but it's just like yeah,
Yeah,
that was a part of it. That was very fun. The fact that we were able to be consistent with it, and I think again, and in Brian, I think we talked about this in the other
yeah.
podcast where it was like so much of WRHU was very broadcast, like professional
Hmm.
script copy or
Like
talking
news and
news,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, that booming, news voice. But this was almost like a podcast, where we were just like friends talking about movies. And that was fun.
Yeah,
That was the fun aspect of it. I think I remember like, I think I'm, as far as I remember, just yeah, around the holidays was always fun. Because people are celebrating films and Oscar baity movies are in theaters at the time.
true.
That was always exciting. I mean, I think the big part of it for me was like just being able to go to like I went to the New York Film Festival and like went to the premiere and like a Q&A with Gone Girl, the movie Gone Girl.
Hmm.
The whole cast was there. That was pretty fun. I remember going to a couple of after parties, which was just wild. For like man, I remember like meeting. I remember meeting like John Favreau and like Kevin Spacey walked up. This was before all the sexual assault allegations, obviously. But he was like on House of Cards and he was having his renaissance. That was pretty cool. Oh yeah, I went to a party for a movie that Paul Bettany directed,
Mm.
and he had his wife Jennifer
Hmm.
Connelly on it. And yeah, so I went to that, and also I forget the actor's name. Oh, Anthony Mackie. Yeah, he was in
Oh
it too.
yeah.
He was in it too. Yeah, so I went to the premiere of that movie, and there was the after party. I remember talking to Jennifer Connelly and Paul Bettany. I remember booking him on the show because he said he wanted to do the show, and then I got like screwed over by his PR team
Ah.
after the fact. But like I said, would you want to do my show? And he goes like, oh, totally. And he gave me like the point of contact of who to reach out to, and I got like, but I think he was sincere because I think he was really feeling himself. He was in a good mood. I know because he was drinking. So like
Still, I
that
mean,
was
it's nice.
fun time. Anyway, fun fact: the guy that who was the producer of that movie, who was on the screening room, I ended up meeting him years later in person at a house party for a producer that I worked for in LA. So yeah, stuff like that. That was fun.
A lot of fun things trickle from this show.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, stories like that. Also, just like being like 19, 20 years old, you're going through Manhattan and in these like screening rooms for like movies that are not coming out, that haven't come out yet.
Yeah,
And
that's
people are
cool.
That's true.
that was
Just to
cool.
have early access to things was actually a really great thing in its
Yeah,
own.
yeah. And then I'm meeting these like journalists that love movies but are a little bit disillusioned. I remember one lady I met with. She bought me lunch. We went to like a Thai restaurant together. She wrote for the New York Times. That was fun. Um, oh, John Turturro too. Like, remember meeting John Turturro and Sofia Vergara for like a movie that he did with Woody Allen called Fading Gigolo. That was pretty cool. Stuff like that. When you go into Manhattan and you're going to these places, and you feel so much more of an adult
Yeah.
at a time where I guess you kind of want to be an adult. And now you get older, you just want to be a kid again. But like, that was pretty cool. Stuff like that. I remember. Yeah, it was always fun.
So,
Exactly.
did you guys do the show for like 2 full years before you graduated?
3 years.
Three, isn't it 3.5 technically?
Really? Yeah, I guess 3.5. It felt like 4.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. November 2013 was when it launched. So yeah, 3.5. Like,
yeah, 3.5 years. Yeah, we were, the kings of it. Of running that for a while.
That's
yeah.
very cool. But at some point, like you were saying earlier, it's time to graduate. It's time to move on. Did you guys make a conscious choice to recruit people to keep it going, or was that station management? How did that work?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, that
and
was
it,
us.
you know what's interesting in a way? It's like we kind of, like obviously we had, the show, and there was a lot of people, like I said, the number 52 at its golden peak of holy crap, so many people are like doing this show. And then we knew who was going to run it afterward. That as was it Olivia and Raj, right, Tommy?
Yeah, Olivia Raj. Yeah, we had like a crew of people that we would meet up to talk about different parts of like different aspects of it. Like I said before, we had we had like an online website where there was like some film reviews and news articles on. Some people were doing their offshoot little videos, but movie reviews that they put on the
Yeah.
website there.
But
There
yeah,
was
but
a
one
department.
thing I remember is that I just know that like Olivia and Roger, they were like the most passionate people, and they were just so excited to be involved in everything. And then like, look, over time, like it didn't stay at 52 people. It died. I don't say it died down. It like kind of like condensed a little bit into what it is now. But what's really cool is that, from there, Olivia and Raj took over when we graduated, and then they kept passing the torch, and I thought that was really cool. And I'm like, I love that it was just officially passed, and then it just became such a norm, I guess, after we graduated, that like, the e-board now is like, okay, we're gonna definitely like, you know make sure that like there's a producer covered for the show, and that's how it kind of stuck throughout. It became like main programming at some point.
Yeah, and obviously, we weren't a part of. I think a part of the So short answer is like we had people that were interested, Olivia
Yeah,
and Raj, that we kind of like interviewed with and hung out with, to get a vibe to see if they wanted to keep doing it, but they were impassioned about it, and a lot of people were able to utilize it to be a lily pad for their career growth,
yeah.
in terms of like interning in the city, doing the screening room. They were able to use that to get a job when they graduated, which was pretty fun. I think that was a big motivator too.
That was true, especially I remember like a couple. I mean, I won't go through every story right now, but at least two or three people in my head, like, they do something on our show, and then they got an internship somewhere, or this helped with their job. It was impactful like that.
Yeah, that was a big part too, and I think just another part of the success of the thing, like lasting as long as it has, was just the consistency of it. I mean, as people say, there's a lot, not there's not a lot of things in life that are hard. It's just a matter of staying consistent with it. And that was certainly, I think, the secret to our success. I think part of the reason we were able to make the show was and keep doing it was because I guess to a degree, John Mullen and probably just thought like, oh, they'll do this for a little bit, then they'll get bored or oversleep or whatever,
Mhm.
and give up. And like a lot of people, I think would, but I think with us, we just no, we really wanted to keep doing it, so we kept doing it, and then it was our thing, and
It genuinely brought us joy on a Sunday morning. And like, think of it this way: we're talking about college here, guys. Like,
Mhm.
people
oh yeah,
sleep in on Sunday mornings most times, but for some reason, I could say that in my college experience, even if we went out the other night, even whatever happened that weekend, we still would just, we
yeah,
would get our coffees, obviously, but like we would still want to do the show on Sunday.
yeah, and I think a part of it too
Yeah.
was just like I think we just the station mate was John and Bruce were really good at making you feel like you were doing something that was big,
Mhm.
you know and being like those guys, like I don't know, that you see on television working at NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox News, and all those other like big outlets, and being a producer, it was kind of like a ego boost for us.
I will also say that, like, I think it's very fun to say the phrase we had, and honestly, yes, the Screen Room was the number one entertainment show because there really wasn't anything like it. We were the number one entertainment show on the number one college radio station in the nation. That's a cool thing to say, and that was the case for, I mean, several years with the station. I mean, WRHU was number one. Like,
Yeah. Oh, another thing too. I mean,
that's a big point to
that is a good
clout.
point. But I think also John even credited us at one point, because when we came to the station, it was number 5, and then I think it was number 3, and I think Christian, you told me that John told you, look, when the show got to be at 10 a.m. on Sunday,
Hmm.
was that they credited us in part of being the reason why we got to number 1.
Yeah, no, we were definitely part of it. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I remember that from John.
So like that's another big deal when I knew the show was going to last, and that was a big deal too.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I think that being able to say we did that was pretty cool. It was a big ego boost, but it got us also, I think, confidence in ourselves when we were younger.
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty important there. But it
Yeah.
was good to be able to find people that were just like as committed as us. That you have absolutely no control over. We certainly had no control over after we left, and it wasn't our concern anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think that's something about the history of the station, whatever show it might be, whether it lasts 11 years or not, is that there's this passing down of knowledge as well as the opportunities you guys said. There's always the spirit of encouragement and cooperation. And then, hey, we learned a thing, we want to show you this, not out of, fear of competition. Like let's get together and help each other out. And it sounds like that really that spirit got passed down. But I want to ask while we're thinking about your time with the show. Um, what do you miss most about doing the show together?
Hmm. I mean, oh man, I mean, just like I mean, it's like I think two things. Well, I mean, I think I addressed one of them before. It's just like the friendship that was behind the show. That was definitely like the biggest thing. It's just being able to get together on a weekend, even if the week was stressful or something like that. Just like to be able to just talk about movies, but also just the second I miss it just being on the air. I think it's just so fun. It's one of the like I just thought it was the coolest thing when I first looked at a radio station going to Hofstra. Just like I just want to be on air. I just think it's cool to talk, to be confident. It was definitely a big confidence booster for me. Um, and yeah, like just I love just the energy that you get being on air, and also just talking to people like your friends and everything. It's just great. So
Hmm.
I really miss just that part of it.
Yeah, I am. When talking about being on air, that's I mean, because I did a podcast for a long time, for about like two years, and I kind of got that being on air kind of a vibe. But yeah, that's kind of a feeling like I haven't felt since I'm kind of started to feel again when I started doing stand up, where you're just performing and talking to people, um, which is similar to being on
Yeah,
air. But also, I guess in terms of just like missing some of it, I did miss um, the creativity aspect of it, of what we were making, being a producer. I miss like taking what was in my head and making it happen, making it a reality. I liked kind of directing people on the show, just like how to help nurture them becoming good broadcasters.
yeah,
And the side of it, but I do miss the friendship aspect of it. I mean, granted, Christian and I still hang out, and we
yeah.
lived together for a while, and we stayed friends over the years when I was living in Los Angeles and came back. But it was I noticed when I came back to the studio for the 10th anniversary, I was kind of in like a nostalgic place and really missed that aspect of our friendship, which really is like producing stuff.
Hmm.
um, I think that was a big part of our friendship too. Like again, we hung out and
Yeah.
do all the typical guy friend stuff, but like
Oh,
we
and
would.
also we can't forget this. I was gonna say we had a tradition every Sunday.
Oh
We
yeah,
after the show we went to Coliseum Deli for breakfast
oh,
every
Holly
morning.
Kelly.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, we did.
Which is
Nice.
right, which is now Pantone's Kitchen or whatever they call it now. But like it was Coliseum Deli, and like every Sunday we just go. I probably always got a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. And I don't know, we just talk about what happened during the show and just more laughs and stuff like that off the air, and that
Yeah,
was just a thing too. I miss that.
yeah. So I guess that's just the producing aspect, part of our friendship, that was producing stuff. I mean, we got to do that again recently because Christian and I just shot a 2 episode TV pilot
Yeah,
that I wrote. That we're working on. So, and
yeah,
that's
really
part of the
excited.
reason why I wrote it too, because I and pitched it to him to see if he wanted to be involved, because I missed that aspect of our
Get the
friendship.
team back together, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
That's amazing that you guys are still able to work together and not just stay in touch, but to have these ideas and to work together, and that's pretty thrilling. Now it seems like from this idea and the pitch, it seems like things came together really well for you guys, and the program worked and still works and so on and so forth. But if you could time travel and go back and talk to your younger selves for 60 seconds, is there a piece of advice you would give either about the show or working at the station or just generally that you might find useful?
Hmm. So you said advice to myself, right?
Yeah, yeah. If you went back and said, "Hey, listen, kid, this is the key to doing this," what would it be?
Honestly, you know what? Ugh, this is so crazy to say. I feel like if I were to, I would do it the same way all over again.
Mm,
That's the crazy thing. It's like, I mean, with the spirit and the optimism to be able to create a show, create something, put it out there, and stick to it. Also being consistent. I think the growth curve, it couldn't be better than what it was. Like, I mean, at least in my opinion. Um, Honestly, I think it was just really cool to like create just an environment that's friendly and good and open to ideas and just like just and is willing to experiment and push ideas forward, not just stick with a norm. And I think just the spirit, kind of like an entrepreneurial spirit, and that's still what I do today. Like, I run my own business and stuff now, and I feel like a lot of that even sparked from like doing screening room, and it kind of gave me like that little umph. Obviously, I deal with money doing it nowadays, but because that's the world. But so there's a little bit more freedom doing it at the station when it was like volunteer, but like still like But anyway, like that's just, yeah, that's how I feel about it. I feel like I would do it the same way again if I went back and gave myself advice.
very cool, Tommy.
Hmm. Um, yeah, everything seemed to work out in the end as far as the show is concerned. So I don't know how much. Generally speaking, I think I would have told myself, be more prepared to let go of it,
Hmm.
of the show. Because there was definitely a part of me that really kind of suffered after graduating. Just not being able to let go of it. And one thing too, I will say that Bruce did for me was kind of like give me those. When we talk about legacy, learning to let go of something. I think that's one thing. We had a couple of conversations about that, and yeah, I think he gave us some time to prepare for it. He even had a conversation with Christian and I about it because I think they were concerned that we
Hmm.
wouldn't be able to let go of it when we
Right.
graduated, both physically, like literally, or like just even for our own sake.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, but I think just you relax, take it easy, enjoy it a little bit more. Not that I didn't enjoy it at the time because I did, but just in general, don't take things so seriously. Where just enjoy the ride. Don't be so egotistical about it. Um, um, practice some humility. Um,
Yeah.
though I have to say, the ego was a little bit that drove us to do what we did. But I think if I could, also just I don't know, be a little bit more practical at how you can parlay it into a job after the fact. But
Yeah.
just work out.
Actually, no. I could definitely agree with that one. Because the idea is like you're kind of like in this world, doing, yeah, which is great for WRHU. Like I said, it's very educational. It's very good for showing something in real time and what the real world can be. But it is also just a radio station. So if you can kind of apply different things like the corporate side, like different parts of
Mhm.
like what it means to create content, to put on a show, to do whatever, just scheduling, operations, whatever. Um, that can translate to real world stuff. That was definitely like the benefit because like you're in that stage of life when you're at WRHU. You're about to
Mhm.
graduate. You're about to go get a job and things like that. So I agree with what Tommy said there.
Yeah, yeah, because I think so much of like, well, one for me, I think I didn't even have a graduation party. I went right out to LA to try to find a job, and just there was no break of like celebration of what you just accomplished. It was like on to the next thing because I don't think I really could live with the fact of saying goodbye to my friends, saying goodbye to the Hofstra, saying goodbye to
Mhm.
my show, and my filmmaker friends. The other aspect of other things we did. I mean, Christian produced my senior film, and I was
Yeah,
making little movies. So, uh, um, yeah, stop. I don't want to say stop and smell the roses. It's so cliche, but like, kind of like celebrate the victory.
celebrate
Take
the small ones and the big
take a
ones.
breather because I was, just I think I just went on to like my job hunt out in LA in that part of my life just as like a coping mechanism, not being able to let go of something. Um, So that's just when I think when like when I try to go to sleep at night, the stuff I think about of like past regrets. But I think that was stuff I would say to him.
I think it sounds like you guys both appreciated what you had at the time, and certainly once you step away, there's that little bit of heartache about it. But you got to be proud that this thing is still going after,
Mm.
7, 8 years after you guys left, that it's still going. That's got to make you feel good.
So
Oh yeah,
proud, so proud.
yeah. I was breaking the kids' chops when we were at the 10th anniversary, where it was like where we didn't know what to expect, and we were kind of expecting to go back to Hofstra and look at the screening room and be like, "What the hell did you do to our boy?" But no, they did a really good job. It was very moving to me. That these the kids were able to find a home and
Yeah,
being able to well, and they did a good job.
they really did. Yeah.
They really did.
And I can't wait for like the fit. I mean, I'm saying to myself that we did the 10th year anniversary. I will go back. I would happily go back every 5 years as long as the show is still on there. I'll go for 15, 20, 25. I'll keep going. I think every 5 years is kind of interesting to see a new, like completely new students every single time at that point because most of them stay around 4 years. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, that'd be interesting.
which would be fascinating.
They didn't get a good job. Who's that guy, Galsky, that was there last time? He also
um,
produced the talk show we were on.
oh, what Brandon, Mike? There's something
And
like that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, Brandon. I think Brandon. Yeah, he was
Brandon
good.
maybe.
He was really good.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, he was one of the people on the mic, right? And then I already forgot some of their names, but yeah, everyone there, like the person running the board, like who took my
She was
position,
really good
and
too. She was
they
good
were all
too.
great.
Yeah, they were all fantastic.
Yeah, and I
Um,
just wish them the best, and just the tradition of passing the torch on to the next and continuing to bring the news and bring the entertainment. That's the motto. So
yeah, one thing that was interesting is like what their commentary is like. To talk about. It was so different than what we did.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
and they've
because
expanded a little. I mean, I know they do like TV, they do Broadway, I think now, like, but
yeah, I think
they still keep movies on there, which is great.
yeah, which I mean, I get it, but it's something like it's called a screening room for a reason. Uh,
Right.
you screen films in like a little theater. That's another thing too. Brian, just like for when we were creating it, I wanted to create this idea of like you going into a place and watching something.
Yeah.
Uh, if you listen to the first couple, like particularly our first intro, which Christian put together very beautifully, it had this feeling like you were entering something into a room.
Like film reel, yeah, yeah. Try like even with sound, try like like film reels and stuff like
Yeah,
that
there
in the
was a film
background.
reel. There was it was I think it was an overture for like one of the Oscars,
Yep, yep,
and
yep,
it
yep.
felt like you were flying into this room, and I wanted to create that experience, um, if, any way that you could through in the audio
Yeah,
of and going into this to this room and having this experience that you wouldn't can't get from like um, watching TV at the time.
Yeah, it's unique to the medium. There's benefits, there's features of radio, of TV, but going into a movie theater and the darkness comes over and the lights come up, and it's a really unique feeling, and it's amazing that you're able to translate that into your radio show. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it was not
thanks.
bad for just an audio, medium, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty. Yeah, we did a good job.
Yes, I
Well,
think so.
congratulations on 11 years of your show, and again, hopefully it'll keep going many more. I'm sure as founders, you have a prerogative to show up when you want and guest in, but it'll be great if you're there for 15 and beyond. And I really enjoy this so much. Thank you guys for taking the time to share your stories, and I really had a blast with this. Thanks so
No,
much.
thank you, Brian. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm glad you wanted to do it. It was, yeah. Something I wonder how long it's going to take for us to we just stop caring. I mean, like, you know,
I think
it's
we'll always care a little bit.
well, I think we will, but like at the same time, like it's like I wonder just how many years later do we still want to go with the stories? Because I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, I know we're wrapping up, but it was just like that. it's an experience like very few people get to have. Create something and see it
Yeah.
last for a long period of time.
Well, there were at least two or three references to this is your child, that is your baby. So I think it's always going to be important to you.
I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Well, again, thank you so much. I loved hearing these stories, and congratulations, 11 years on the screening room, and maybe we'll tell some more stories another time. This was great.
yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.